It was a collaboration with Channel 4, and we already have collusion, right? We already have two news sources sort of working on this, and the government gets involved. It gets deep. So here we go. Russell Brand accused of rape, sexual assault, and abuse. 4 women, including one who was just 16, make allegations after an investigation by the Sunday Times, the Times, and Channel 4 dispatches. So this is 3 different media conglomerates sort of coming together and waging a direct attack on Russell Brand. Now, if you're not familiar with Russell Brand is he is a British comedian who got his start doing. He was on MTV. He did crazy shit like he would took a bath with a homeless guy. They filmed him shooting up and shit like. He was a mess, right? So he got clean and then became a sex addict, and he's written about it extensively, and he has, been very honest with his sexual exploits. So the Times, they released this article. When was this? This was September 16th. So it was last week. It was last Saturday. And Friday before this came out, and there's also a subsequential a documentary that came out with it, which we will go through it. I do want to say up front, there's a trigger warning, so if anybody is watching this or listening to this, if you're uncomfortable with these kind of subjects, I suggest you not listen or watch this stream, video, or podcast. It's pretty fucked up. There's some nasty shit that takes place. And again, it's all allegations, and there has been no charges brought up against Russell Brand. There has been no legal recourse to any of this. The Metro Police in the UK are looking into it, and they have opened up an investigation. So if he is a rapist, fuck Russell Brand, fuck him till he's dead. I do not support rapists or racists. But there is no official charge against him. This is mostly hearsay, although there is compelling evidence, which we shall get to in a little bit here. So the Friday before, this is the wrong one. My bad. So the Friday before he actually live streamed today, and I watched the stream, and he makes no mention of the allegations or anything. So here is what he had to say the day before the Times, Channel 4, and the Sunday Times released their article and documentary and a radio show. This is what he released preemptively. Getting in front of the story. So here's this.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received 2 extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff, like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute.
Now, he's right off the bat, he's saying he refutes it. He's denying all allegations. And so that's where he stands. And I was watching like the body analyzers, the people who study body language and stuff. And one of the things that they point out is how often he has his palms out, which is supposed to represent like, I'm being open, I'm being honest. People like this, they're like presenting this with all honesty. But Russell Brand does this a lot. He uses his arms and hands a lot. He's very active with it. He's been a presenter and a host and an actor and a comedian for a very, very long time. So, he's very good with conveying information, and he's very well-spoken, eloquent person, and that's what attracts me to him. Again, I'm not really a big fan of his stand-up or of his movies. You know, like Forgetting Sarah Marshall was cool, and Get him to the whatever, Jonah Hill. That was pretty cool. There were some movies that are funny, right? But overall, not the biggest fan of Russell Brand. But I really do like his political commentary. And anyways, so we'll get to here. Let's just...
These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play?
Okay, so again, he refutes and he denies all allegations without actually coming out and saying what the allegations are. He may not have known what the allegations were. He might not have, the reporters reached out to him. A couple of them did, and they probably didn't share exactly what they had, but he probably wasn't sure what was going on. So he just, all of them, and he wasn't specific. And then he moves into what people will call conspiracy theory. And we'll address that later too.
Particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan, when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of. And we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments.
And for anybody who needs a refresher, Joe Rogan, podcaster, comedian, he, back in COVID, when things were in full swing, he ended up getting COVID. And he had a cocktail of different drugs. Ivermectin is what Russell Brand is referring to, which is, and then they just everywhere they were saying that ivermectin was horse paste, it was animal medicine, it was horse medicine, and it was this ubiquitous, across the board agreement with all these media outlets, lockstep with the medical field and the government, right? Like they were just saying, he was like, yeah, he was taking horse paste, and they had experts who were from the medical field who were just saying, don't believe that, and go get the shot, go get the vaccine. And Joe Rogan was very against the vaccine. I mean, not very against. He decided not to take the vaccine. Did not tell anybody. Yeah, CNN changed the color of Joe Rogan to make him look yellow, like he was sick and stuff. They went through great lengths to make Joe Rogan look like a liar who was spreading misinformation and trying to kill your grandma by telling them that not to get the vaccine. He did say if you're young and healthy, you don't need the vaccine, and which he ended up kind of being right about that. There was the time. It was that whole time when you couldn't say shit about anything about the vaccine. You couldn't say anything about COVID-19. You remember when the lab leak? You guys remember when the lab leak was misinformation, disinformation? Now it turns out that my buddy just sent me the article today. I'll read it to you guys because it's already locked and loaded. There's an article that just came out from the Telegraph in the UK. Was this China lab suspected of COVID leak stripped of U.S. funding for violating biosafety rules. Wuhan Institute of Virology broke rules with experiments that increased viral activity more than tenfold, says Health Department. The fun thing is that the United States here is they're stripping some funding from this lab, who is only doing the work that we hired them to do because we export our illegal research to places like China and South America, where the rules are a little bit more lackadaisical. So, and they're also, it's also putting a division between the United States, sort of making it two separate entities, right? That this virology lab and the United States have nothing to do with each other because, look, we stripped them of their funding because they did that thing that we told people that they didn't do, called it conspiracy theory. People lost money. People lost people lost their YouTube accounts. YouTubers were getting strikes for quoting the CDC. Absolutely. I think Steven Crowder was one of them, right? Louder with Crowder. He was just reading off of the CDC website and got a community guideline strike. So, yeah, it was a very crazy time. So, I think Russell Brand here is showing, and this is what he does, and this is why a lot of people like him, because independent media has become way more trusted than anyone on CNN, Fox News, or any of the major legacy media outlets, and that seems to be a problem. And they even created this, what was it called? I pulled up an article. What is it called? Here we go. The Trusted News Initiative. And they started this, I think, back in 2021. And to combat spread of harmful vaccine disinformation and research project. So the Trusted News Initiative partners will continue to work together to ensure legitimate concerns about future vaccinations are heard, whilst harmful disinformation myths are stopped in their tracks. And so what we have here is a whole organization that no one elected, no one decided that this is what we wanted. It's a global thing, and so it was created back in 2020. And these people are regulating what can and can't be said in the media throughout the entire, at least the Western world, which is crazy. Right? Like, it's crazy that only one source of trusted, and it says trusted, right? Trusted news, like, you can trust us. Like the Patriot Act. You're patriotic. If you got to be patriotic to support the Patriot Act, which allows us to go through your library records on what you've rented from the library. It's able to, just collect information from your phone calls, from your emails, from your fucking, text messages, and on and on. So, I mean, it's patriotic, bro. Don't you hate terrorists? Bro, don't you hate misinformation and disinformation? They have trust in the name, bitch.
Come on, man.
So, anyways, coming back to Russie here. Let's keep going here.
It's for a while. Watch out, Russell. They're coming for you. You're getting too close to the truth. Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles. Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist. Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice. I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous, consensual conduct in the past. What I seriously refute are these very, very serious criminal allegations. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack.
So there's a lot that he stuffed in there, and that's what I mean about being eloquent. Like, he has a great way of sort of stuffing a lot of impactful information into like just a few sentences. He's been attacked in the past. Again, the TNI, that Trusted News Institution, or whatever the fuck they want to call it, it's really a sort of an institution to protect the mainstream media, and to almost sort of squash independent media, independent news outlets, because independent news outlets are becoming where a lot, if not most, of people are getting their information. we all seen the numbers. CNN's getting barely any watchers, right? Like Fox News is tanking, especially after they got rid of Tucker Carlson. I mean, it's just they saw a huge drop in their viewership. It's just all of them are eating shit. Nobody's paying for the fucking for the New York Times, right? Like who the fuck the New York? Like they have made it very clear that they have taken a stance on and they are lockstep and they're coordinated with our government. And that TNI bullshit was just another way of protecting that, because it is a mouthpiece of the government and it should be protected, and in their opinion, and that's pretty awful. So he is addressing the fact that he has been attacked before.
Two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently, in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack.
And it does seem to be it is a coordinated attack. It doesn't seem to be a coordinated attack because all of a sudden everybody grabbed the same wording and the same headlines and just put it on their websites, and it was just Russell Brand rapist, right? It was coordinated. It is coordinated, and it's a touchy subject because we are talking about somebody who may or may not have raped some women, and there is compelling evidence that he may have raped at least one of the original 4 victims who came out. Now, there's other people who are saying they're victims because they were manipulated by Brand, because they were having sex with him, and they felt like he manipulated them into having sex with him. I don't really consider that rape or even sexual assault if you are jumping in with them. The idea that, like, he manipulated me into bed is like, I'm sorry, you still had that free choice to say no. Now, there is one of the accusations that do have teeth, and we'll cover that in a bit here, but let's listen to the rest of what he's saying.
Now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations, but I feel like I'm being attacked, and plainly they are working very closely together. We are obviously going to look into this map.
And so he keeps going on and saying, stay free. And you know, the idea that the government and the media isn't in lockstep, they're not coordinating, is ridiculous. The Twitter files, we found out that the DOJ was in direct contact with Twitter, and the Hunter Biden laptop story, if anybody can recall, in the 2020 on the doorstep of the fucking 2020 election, the Hunter Biden laptop story was squashed by, you know, the press secretary saying that it was misinformation. It was from Russia. It was from China, Chinese, Russian disinformation laptop. They had what, like 40x fucking DOJ members who were in various alphabet institutions like CIA, FBI, who came out and saying, yeah, it's Russian disinformation. And they did not allow the information to get out on social media, Facebook, Twitter at the time, all across all these social media platforms. It became buried, and it was very obvious that there was a coordinated attack. Well, wouldn't you guess that it ended up being true? That laptop ended up being Hunter Biden's laptop. I have some friends who had a podcast who actually interviewed the guy from the Delaware computer store where Hunter dropped it off, and his whole story is incredible. He talks about, you know, like how he was being attacked in the media and how, you know, he was making copies of the shit. It's crazy. Remember when the WHO wouldn't acknowledge Taiwan? Yes, too. Just to stay in good graces of China. Yeah, because Taiwan is technically not a sovereign state and is still a part of China, even though they don't consider themselves part of China at all. And that's where all of our microchips come from. So I do have to say that the Biden administration did do some cool stuff by by starting the initiative to initiate production of silicon chips in America, which I think is great, and I applaud that. Good job.
Come on, man.
Yeah, you're okay. It's okay. It's okay, Grandpa. Okay, so this is what everybody saw on the Friday before the article dropped, and then the article drops about the allegations. So, where are we at here? So, they released a whole hour-and-a-half documentary, and it's kind of long. And I was gonna watch we're just gonna go through a little bit of the doc, and sort of go through some of the cases that these ladies were dealing with. And again, I do want to say trigger warning. I understand that not everybody can handle this kind of shit. It's rough for me to even talk about because these are some very egregious acts towards women, and I'm very against it. And if Russell Brand is found guilty in a court of law, then they should definitely send him to prison for a very, very long time. Fuck him. But again, there's nothing legally that was done yet. So let's see
going on in his head, so it was kind of weird.
Okay, so Channel 4, this is the actual documentary they put out, and they hired actors. So these are actors because they wanted to maintain the anonymity. I did it! I said it! They wanted to maintain the anonymity. And I'll tell you the only reason why I know how to say anonymity right now is because I was just talking to my therapist for an hour about this. I literally just talked her ear off about Russell Brand. I was basically practicing for the stream on her, and that's what she got. But it was a good conversation between us both. And she had a great way of sort of bringing it back with me. She's like, I really like, you can really tell growth because you're able to take other sides or look at other perspectives. And I'm sure that helps you in your own personal life. And I'm like, yes, it does. Okay. Anyways, not to go into my therapy sessions. But, okay. So these are done by actresses and actors, which is, I'm not mad at it, but still a little weird. And, Channel 4 and these news networks were reaching out to these victims. So these victims didn't come forward. This was a effort, and they went looking. So they started to dig for these victims, these alleged victims. So this woman's an actor. The words are spoken are her own.
It positions that as the individual... Sorry, a lady uncrossed her legs and I saw up her skirt. And that shows how the human mind works. You can be just about to make a brilliant point about homelessness and the media's service of a corporate agenda, and then you'll see up a woman's skirt and think, well, none of that really matters.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Come on, man.
Why are you gay?
All right.
He was having a show, and it was his very first one in Hollywood, Brand X. I was at the trial run. There was an after party. I'd never met Russell before, ever. And he literally made a beeline for me and said, I want to meet you. We were chatting backstage. He leaned in and kissed me. It was very, very quick.
And
Brand took Nadia.
Wait. I like how they just went past that. They didn't ask how she felt about that. Didn't ask anything. Just, he kissed me. No follow-up.
His number at the party, and they stayed in contact.
But obviously it wasn't too intrusive of a kiss because they exchanged phone numbers. Well, it gets worse. Hello, this is Russell. Thank you for that beautiful moment. You are delicious, X. And just so everyone knows that Channel 4 did confirm that this was Russell Brand's phone number and text messages at the time that these messages were exchanged. So this is from Russell Brand. So.
I did go around to his place, and we did have sex.
she did go to his place and they did have sex.
He's like, do you want to use a condom or not use a condom? And I'm like, no, absolutely, we're using a condom.
Right. Fair enough.
Did
He's
respect
gross.
my
He has dirty dick. Like, that dude is gross.
wishes then. It does this thing where he glazes over. I don't know what's going on in his head, so it was kind of weird. July 1st, 2012 was when my rape happened. I was out late, and he happened to call me and say, I've had a really bad day. Please come over. And at first I said, no, I'm not going, it's late. And he's like, please come, just come and cuddle with me. So then I gave in, and I'm like, okay. The door was unlocked. I just walked into his place. He comes running out of the bedroom naked. He came at me with kisses and stuff, which was kind of fun. And then it wasn't that fun when I couldn't move, or I knew what he wanted from me at that point. He pushed me up against the wall. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, I have a friend here, and I want you to come into the bedroom. I'm like, no, that's not happening. We're not doing that. And I tried to get away from him. I slipped away from the wall. I went to another wall that had a painting on it, a huge painting. My bag got actually stuck underneath that, and it's still on my arm. And at this point, he's grabbing at my underwear, pulling it to the side. I'm telling him to get off me, and he won't get off. And he has that glazed look in his eye again. I was very distraught, trying to get out of the house with him being so much taller than me, like holding me up against the wall, pushing himself in me.
That's terrible. That's terrible. If this happened, that's horrible. I mean, I'm a firm believer, even if you're in the middle of fucking a girl and she says, stop and get off me, it's like, you just stop, right? Like, as soon as there's a no or like, stop, that's a stop. You stop. You stop. There's, like, as soon as someone says no, and if it's a woman with a man, stop, no, doesn't matter. Any gender, of any sex, no means no, right?
I couldn't move. And he finally comes and gets off of me, and I push him away.
Yeah, but even if she knew, you have to know what the connotations are from that guy. Like, acting like you don't know what Russell Brand wants when he says come and cuddle, it seems a little out there. But if even she showed up, and even if she's like changed her mind, even though she changed up, she changed, even though she showed up and changed her mind, as soon as she says no, it's like, hey, okay, we're done here. Exactly. I just, no matter what the precursor was, as soon as the no comes up, it's like, hey, man, it's over.
He blocks the door. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. Get away from me. And he's like, well, let's calm down. I ran out and I jumped in my car. I was in a daze.
So the text message says, I'm sorry, that was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know that you're a lovely person. And that's from Russell Brand on July 1st, 2012, 3:29 a.m. Journalists for this film have confirmed this text sent from Russell Brand's number. There you go.
Nadia replied later that morning.
So here's the whole text message. They actually blur out half of this or most of this, but I want to read the whole text message that came from the next morning around 11 a.m. You scared the shit out of me. You're right. I'm a lovely person, and for you to take advantage of me like that is unexpectable. You have a problem. You need help. It's dangerous that you think you can get your own way all the time. Do you know how scary you are when that glazed look comes over you? When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to go and get myself tested? Last time you asked me condom or no condom. When I said condom, that doesn't mean it's optional. You don't have the best reputation. I pride myself on being safe and trying to make the right decisions. Obviously, this was a bad one. I'm so disappointed. Now, that to me says there was something fucked up happened. Some people are saying that means that he didn't use a condom and maybe he pulled the old switcheroo, right? Like he's just like, oh yeah, condom's on, and rips it off and goes to town. To me, that says something bad happened other than that. I have had friends who had sex addiction, and there is sort of a glazed look over that comes over them when they get into that mode. I've seen I don't, he's not really even a friend anymore, and we don't really talk, and I'm not trying to say that we were never friends. We were in a band together, but I remember seeing him at the bar, like talking to a girl who was talking to him and was like, haha, flirting back and stuff. And then he just started getting real grabby, and she's all like pulling away. And he just is like, his eyes are just like, like he's just in this, he's in a, he just goes into a trance where he's just, all he can think about is coming inside, like, whoa, and grabbing her tits and feeling her up and shit. So I've seen that. I've seen it happen, and it's not great. Dude's a walking video. Exactly. He's gross. Dirty Dick Russell, for sure. Russell Brand has a dirty dick. And he again, he's been open about this, and he's been sexually promiscuous. I mean, there's days where he was like fucking like 5 girls at a time, just in and out. Like one of his, in this documentary, they even talk about like his personal assistant was like, it was just like bitches in and out. So he's definitely disgusting. Is this text message proof that he raped this woman? No. Is it compelling? It is, because it does seem life goals. Look, that's the thing. There's no secret, and even to this day, that men in power tend to fuck a lot of girls. If women are consensual if it's a consensual situation, then who gives a fuck how many women he's fucking? Like, it does not matter. He's gross, but whatever. I mean, there's been a time in my life where I'm like just walking around the neighborhood throwing my dick around. It happens. It happens to the best, happens to the worst of us. and you know what? It was fun. It was fun, like not being connected to anyone and just being able to like go here and get laid twice in a day. Like, that's just tight. Okay. It's dope. It's dope. Right. I'm not going to lie. But, everything was consensual. Everybody, like no one felt bad afterwards. It was just a good time. Everyone's having fun. Being young and having fun. Nothing wrong with that. So, but this text message is compelling to me. And then there's more. And it says, do you know how... Okay, they're highlighting what she said. No, it means
That same
no.
day, Nadia went to a local rape treatment centre to report what had happened. She underwent tests, was given antibiotics and emergency contraception.
They took my underwear and obviously the samples.
Nadia gave staff this detailed account.
So this is where the evidence gets pretty compelling. I'd say she actually went to a rape crisis center. There is actual documentation of her going, and this is from the document. According to the victim, he then pushed her up against the wall, separated her legs with his leg, moved her underwear to the side, and vaginally penetrated her, ejaculating inside her once he finished. Well, and that's just rude. That's just rude. She reported that the situation for her was even more complicated due to the assailant celebrity status
of the incident.
This is music.
She decided not to go to the police.
I was just too scared. I didn't want to put my family through that, let alone me through that, with him being famous.
Okay, and this is where like, you know, I understand that point of view. I've been sexually molested as a kid by several members of my family, and when the information got out, I vehemently denied it because I didn't want that kind of smoke. I understand that when you are assaulted, that it's embarrassing. You feel you feel gross. You feel, you know, ashamed of yourself. She didn't want to go to the cops, and she didn't want to put her family through that. And I get that on another level. I know it's not the same as being sexually assaulted in that way. And I was a small child. But I understand that idea is like, I'm not trying to deal with that because it's horrible. It's like, I just want to get past this and just forget that it happened. So you never blame a victim for not going to police because it's a complicated and nuanced situation. It's not easy. It's not something that's just like, just do it, you know? What is sad about it, though, if Russell Brand is a serial rapist, then not going to the police just means there's more victims. And that's where the shitty, touchy part comes in. It's Stockholm Syndrome. I don't know if it's Stockholm because she definitely was just like, he's a celebrity. I mean, anybody who has power over you, whether they're just bigger than you or they're, you know, they're a celebrity or, you know, the president of the United States, just anybody who has any kind of power over you, it's a complicated situation that you're afraid of retaliation. You know, this is a very complicated situation. So I don't know if Stockholm Syndrome is the correct way to look at it, but I would definitely say that it has a part to play in it. But they can afford better lawyers. Yes, they can. They sure as fuck can do that. So you know, to me, this is the only one that's compelling evidence that he actually raped somebody. All the other ones are all hearsay. Now, the other one is pretty gross, just because it's gross. I mean, we'll get there.
When I went in for one of my first therapy sessions, I literally couldn't say the word rape. I had to keep saying sexually assaulted, but by the end of it, I was like, oh my God, he raped me.
See, I don't like I hate how they're framing this, because this fucking is a actress, and they're like pointing to like this person, like they're showing the fingers, she's playing with her fingers, looking all uneasy and stuff. Like, I don't like that this is just a fake representation of the actual alleged victim's, you know, words and what she said and how she acted. So it's just something off about that. I can't necessarily explain it. It just feels fake in some way. I mean, you're obviously creating a narrative here, right? They're obviously creating this narrative that Russell Brand is some monster. So, and they do a good job at it.
This was in 2012, but other allegations against Russell Brand go back many years.
Many years.
Hey, what a year it's been for you, Mr. Russell Brand.
I've had ever such a nice time.
Just do a 3.
3.
Please.
So now they're talking to Helen Berger, who is Russell Brand's former assistant personal assistant from 2006 and 2007.
I sent my resume to one of those agencies that like will place you places, and I was given this interview to work with Russell. The only thing I knew about Russell is that I had watched the NME Awards a week or two before I got this interview. And at the NME Awards, Bob Geldof called him the C word.
Russell Brand, what a...
When I met Russell, I was like, oh, this is like weird and refreshing. And it really did seem like he was on his way up. Camden at that time, you know, it was like Amy Winehouse stumbling out of like the Holly Arms. All these like bands that I read in the NME, like hanging out. I'm like going places with Russell. You know, somebody whispering in my ear, oh, do you know who that is? It was an exciting time.
I've got to be on the telly! Shut up!
Russell's been on a national comedy tour. He was writing a book. He was writing a weekly column in The Guardian. He had 2 shows, Big Brother's Big Mouth, one Leicester Square on MTV.
On the telly, you look quite cool, but in real life, you look sort of preposterous.
Right, this is like the world I lived in. He always only wore his underwear, his tighty whities. I don't think today I would accept like a boss only being in his underwear around me. His favorite subject was him. He was a narcissist, and it was like almost a joke. I was trying to get his attention because we had to go somewhere, and I couldn't get him to listen to me. And I literally looked in my bag, found the schedule, and I said, Russell, and I showed him the picture of his face. And he looked at me, and he smiled, and he's like, oh, you get me.
Not surprising. He's becoming a star. Obviously, he's fucking gonna be into himself. Just the way he did his hair, which is fucking stupid. It looks like some kind of exotic bird. It's, you know, none of that is illegal. But yet they are painting a picture here, right? We got to remember there's a narrative being pushed.
I mean, it was just like nonstop, and not to mention a very active sex addiction.
Right, so I used to be able to distract myself from feeling embarrassed and ashamed by drinking and taking drugs, cheer me up a little bit. Can't do that anymore because I've spoiled it, took too much of it.
I know, that goes, Russ.
So now, because I can't do that anymore, I like to have it off, right? As sort of, thanks.
Thanks.
Why not? Yeah, let's cheer the idea of sex.
Yeah,
Brand
who
was
cares?
a self-proclaimed sex addict, and his promiscuity was celebrated in the tabloid press.
You were voted the Sun newspaper's Shagger of the Year.
Right. He's celebrated. And by the way, he was, at the time, he was, you know, a darling. Just everybody loved him. Tabloids loved him. Obviously, he's winning Shagger of the Year awards. And that's the thing that I feel like this next generation is sort of completely writing off, is the idea of cultures evolving. And that at that time in early 2000s, mid 2000s, right? All the way up until like 2014, when people realized that, or even 2012, really, when all this, you know, beginning of it was really the failure of the Obama administration when they started to focus on social issues to sort of deflect from the failures of the Obama administration, where he, you know, he basically bailed out all these banks who put about 5 million people out on their asses. They lost their homes here in America. And he did nothing for them, and he only rewarded these bankers, you know, bad decisions stemming from the 2008 financial collapse. So there was this really big push from our government to focus on racism, race, sex, and all that good stuff. And that was really they sort of latched on to what was already sort of percolating in the colleges and the universities. This idea that this idea of coming from the humanities departments, that everything that we see around us is based on race, sex, and race and sex, right? Like everything we see is all built around our experience of being a victim and being oppressed. And so that just really took off. So there was just a different culture back in the 2000s. Like even in the movies, they were saying like that's gay or calling people the F word and not fuck. The rhetoric was terrible, and you look back at these old movies and you're like, oh God, you couldn't do that now. It was a different fucking time. It was a different time, a time when they were glamorizing a man for fucking all these women. They were happy about, they were giving him awards for this. And so people never take into account a different time and a different culture and hold people accountable to today's standards, and not take into consideration the lack of standards back in the day. Now, I'm okay with not saying like, slurs against the gays and I like representation. I'm all for progress, but not to a point where censorship, it's like tolerance, so much tolerance that evolves into intolerance, right? Like you just can't be tolerant enough. And if you can't tolerate us wanting to make pedophiles a part of a protected class under the umbrella of the LGBTQ plus 2 spirit, whatever, then you're not tolerant enough, and then you should be canceled, and you should lose all your sponsors, and you should lose your entire platform because you don't agree that pedophiles should be included as a protected class. That's just one example. There's many, many examples of how ridiculous this whole woke movement has become. Anyways, that was a lot. But just the idea that people don't take into consideration culture is a problem. I think it's a problem of the differences in cultures.
He went on to win Shagger of the Year 3 years in a row.
I'm assuming, though, that...
And I love that, like, Channel 4 is painting this. It's like, look how bad it was that they were allowing him to do these things. Bitch, Channel 4 was right there doing the same shit. Okay? The Times were doing the same shit. I don't, they're UK publications and shit, but I can only assume that they were fucking feeding into the monster as well. It was selling papers. Let's just, drop the shit. These people are here to make money, right? It got people to buy the paper. It got people to, subscribe to their blogs. And now it's like that gets clicks. And this is what it's all about. So the fact that they're trying to paint this picture of a different time in their culture as like they were protecting him and allowing and facilitating this bad behavior. And that's the picture they're trying to paint here. It's ridiculous.
You take precautions.
Yeah, I take an awful lot of precautions. What I do is I make absolutely sure that it is a woman, then go for it.
He was well known for his controversial sexual humour.
I'm really crap at this, aren't I?
You're lovely, you're fine. Just go with it. Don't try and fight it. I have to say that every day.
There was no shortage of bookings.
Are you in a bra designed by you now?
No, but I'm wearing my knickers.
Get them off.
Okay.
There won't be a point where I go, oh, don't.
There won't be a point where I say, oh, don't, which is fair, right? Like if a woman says, okay, and starts taking off her panties, what are you going to say? Well, they're on TV anyways, but hey. I guess as a married man, I'd be like, hey, bitch, I'm married. Put your fucking pants back on.
There'll be a point where I go, go on in.
That's funny. But they're trying to paint this as like, look at what a monster he was. It's like, bitch, this is what people, I mean, it's just what was happening. He made an entire career. Oh, and he spit on it. He spit on his dick. Okay, nice. He was making a jack off thing for people listening on the audio side. He was like pretending to masturbate and then spit on it.
Everyone does it. Don't be afraid of your own sexuality. Do be a bit afraid of mine, though.
Oh, see, that will be afraid of mine.
He could not stop sleeping with women, and he was never satisfied by it. He was never happy. We were at his TV show, One Leicester Square. He was like walking this way, and he like said, "Can you get me their numbers?" They were members of the audience on his show.
Yeah. And if the members of the audience wanted to go and fuck Russell in his dressing room, that was their decision.
I saw a lot of like things that if I were to walk into it now, I would say, "Oh, that's not right." But like back then, everything was so normalized.
At this time, Brand worked closely with a small trusted team, including his long-term writing partner.
Okay, so, you know, just to show another side of it, and she even says later in the interview she's never seen him do anything sexually inappropriate with a woman, and it was all consensual.
Sure, but like I knew everything about the world.
So now they're going into the other victim, alleged victim.
I thought I was very grown up, thought I was very mature, but like I knew everything about the world. The law enabled it as well. It shouldn't be legal for a 16-year-old to have a relationship with a man in their 30s.
Russell Brand was, I believe, 31 and started a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old. So that's really fucking gross. And it was corroborated with her parents, you know, for whatever that's worth. That's gross. But he's not breaking the law. There's no laws being broken. And you guys know in Nigeria, the age of consent is 11. 11 in heaven. In Nigeria, you can legally fuck a child. So, you know, nothing against the beautiful people of Nigeria, but it's weird. Roses are red, violets are blue. My pants are down, so why not screw? Look at that. Naders jumps in with a nice poem.
I never felt there was any kind of power balance at all. I always felt like he had the upper hand.
Of course he had the upper hand. You were a child. He was a celebrity. Of course. Now we look at that as like he had the upper hand and he has power over her, so now he's raping her. And it's like, well, we all have free will. We can say no. I know that it's a weird situation to be in. But fuck, dude. At what point do we say that personal responsibility doesn't play into this, into these sorts of situations? Not to say like it's the victim's fault because she was wearing a short dress and that's why someone sexually assaulted her. It's like, no, that's fucked up. A woman should be able to walk down the street in a short dress and not be raped. That's very, but at some point, I mean, where were the fucking parents? You know, like, what were the parents doing? She's 16, but I mean, she was legally able to do this. This is all legal. I find it horrendously disgusting that a 30-year-old was fucking a 16-year-old girl. That's gross. That's gross. But it wasn't illegal. But I do think that's disgusting.
In bed, I just followed his lead.
Yeah, because you were a fucking child. Of course, which is terrible. Again.
Silence!
exciting what's going on. Ashleen has gone next door.
By
2006.
April 2006, Russell Brand was in great demand. Away from the limelight, at the age of 30, he was starting a relationship with 16-year-old Alice.
I had a friend that worked in the Leicester Square building that housed MTV. I was coming out of that studio and Russell was coming in.
Yeah, he was.
He saw me and he'd asked what my business was there. I'd just been to Topshop. He took the shopping bags from my hands and picked a dress out and he said, okay, you're going to wear that on a date with me. I remember wearing, you know, a red wiggle dress and big platform shoes and had my hair blown out and was wearing makeup, but I didn't look like a woman by any means. I was a child that had got dressed up for dinner.
Ugh, that's so gross.
It was overwhelming, but I did feel, yeah, I liked him and I felt a bit giddy. I felt special. I woke up to text messages from him saying that he dreamt that we were married and how happy it had made him.
Looking back on the relationship, which started consensually, Alice now feels she was controlled by Brand. He would later joke on stage about his techniques with women.
I can pretend to be nice for a little bit of time, you know, at the beginning of a relationship, pretending to be nice. I'm quite nice. I nod a lot. I'm quite nice. Yeah, come round my house. Yeah, we'll just watch a video. No, it's all right. I'll sleep on the sofa. Right, pretending to be nice. Yeah, no, it's all right. We can just cuddle. No, we'll just kiss a bit. That's all right. No, I'm not even that interested in sex. We'll just come. I'll just kiss. Yeah, let's watch Wonderful Life on the video. The knobstacle course, I call that.
The knobstacle wall. Again, trying to paint they're trying to paint his performances as an admission of guilt, which, you know, some people kind of do that. Woody Allen, you know, he famously married his adopted daughter and then made a bunch of movies about older men fucking underage women, cheating, doing all kinds of gross stuff, which was a reflection of his life. So I can see a little bit. I can see a little bit of that. But they are trying to paint a guilty narrative here using his own, old footage and comedy against him.
Met up with him. We walked through the door. And then again, things got very intense very, very quickly. He was like, so how many people have you had sex with? And I said, no one. Like, I've never had sex with anyone. And he got an erection straight away. And he was like, oh my God, he's like, my baby, and picked me up and cradled me in his arms like a child and was stroking my hair. He's like, you're like my little dolly.
Yeah. That's gross.
Russell engaged in the behaviors of a groomer. Looking back on it, I didn't even know what that was then or what that looked like.
I would agree with that.
He would try to drive a wedge between me and my parents, taught me to lie to them. I was at my dad's house and it was 11 o'clock at night.
Sounds like something Biden would say as he's sniffing. You're my little baby.
Come on, man.
Russell was texting me. He's like, please come over. I need to see you. I'm really upset. Like, I need to see you. And I said, I can't. It's late. He came up with a scenario where my friend was ill and he made me do these role play conversations with him. He was like, okay, I'm going to be your dad and you be you. And he would correct me as we went along. He's like, no, you can't say that. Your dad's going to say this. He had a whole script for me.
Alice recalls how Brand made her feel after she'd had sex with him for the first time.
When everything was over, one of his friends came round to the house. They both drove me to the tube station. I felt like a little kid being dropped off somewhere. He reached his hand behind the car seat and was holding my hand behind the seat like my mum does when she's in the car. And it made me feel like, yeah, I felt very small. I felt like a little kid.
Where the fuck are the parents? That's just what I want to know. I mean, it's terrible. If this is true, this is a very terrible thing, and I don't think she's lying about her feelings looking back at it. I believe that she believes she was groomed. But it comes down to the law, and he didn't break the law. But this is gross. This is ick. This is just not cool in any way to me. The parents were getting paid like Michael Jackson. Maybe. I mean, it's not the first time parents have fucking pimped their kids out, right? Happens all the time and for way less money.
Advocate for myself in any way, and I also didn't feel like I could argue with a grown-up.
What's up, Mighty? Welcome in. Good to see you. Next time, pimp my child. Oh, Jesus. Oh, golly.
I'd only been seeing him a couple of months. I remember he ran a bath for me, and he made me sit in the bath. Then he said he had to leave, but I should stay in the bath for the entirety of him being gone. It was long enough for me to get cold. I got out of the bath and put a towel on. It was like, okay, when I hear the door go or the phone go, I'll just jump back in. He was very pleased and elated when he came home and I was still in the bath. Then picked me up and dried me off, and then...
I mean, she could have warmed up the water again, but who wants to sit in the bath for like 2 hours while he goes off and probably fucks some other girl? So, I'll be back. I gotta fuck somebody else, but I'll be back. Fuck you too.
Wrap me up in a robe and put me on the sofa.
A family member has confirmed that Alice was having a relationship with Brand at this time. A relationship. Did they have sex? I don't know. Was it inappropriate for a 30-year-old man to have sex with this girl? Or to be in a relationship with this girl? I think so. I just couldn't imagine. Ugh.
Things took a slightly darker turn. I was sat up in the bed up against the headboard, and he forced his penis down my throat, and I couldn't breathe. It was just choking me, and I couldn't breathe. I was pushing him away, and he wasn't backing off at all. And so I ended up having to punch him really hard in the stomach to get him off. And then he fell backwards, and I was crying, and he said, "Oh, I only want to see your mascara run anyway."
Them blowjobs where mascara runs a little bit. Good. Where too much saliva is cut, a lot of spit. But I wouldn't suggest it. That would be horrible. If I suggested it, no, that's improper.
So there's the two most egregious ones. The rest are mainly that they felt taken advantage of, and that, you know, there was other situations where he's showing his dick to people, and, you know, he gets fired from some jobs. He's lost jobs over his sexual promiscuity. So yeah, you know, there's no doubt that he was a scum fuck, right? I mean, it's just a lot of evidence that he was a scummy dude throwing his dick around. Did he rape people? I don't know. That's what they're saying. And, you know, I am for the victim. I would never say that these people don't believe what they're saying. But there also is a process to this called due process. And it should be had out in the court of law and not the court of public opinion. Now, here's the thing. There has been journalists who expose certain, expose like Harvey Weinstein, right? Yeah, he was exposed by oh my God, what's his name? It's actually Woody, what the fuck is, my God, why am I, not Roman Polanski, it was Roman, oh my God, Roman journalist, Atwood, no, that wasn't it, journalist, Roman, no. Who exposed the Weinstein? Roman journalist. Weinstein. Ronan. It's Ronan. Duh. Not Ronan Farrow. Jesus Christ. Ronan Farrow, which is Woody Allen's. Oh, I see what you're doing. Woody Allen's ex-wife, which Woody Allen was accused of molesting one of his daughters, but Ronan Farrow was the one who opened up the floodgates on Harvey Weinstein. Whereas Harvey Weinstein, for years, people were covering for him. Michelle Obama is saying, thank you, Harvey. There's a bunch of just huge A-listers who are like, thanks, Harvey. And they're women, and they're all loving and thanking him. He was protected. It was well known within the industry that he was a fucking horrible rapist, a monster. And so a journalist was able to break that story. So I think it is important for journalists to be involved, to present information. But I don't think it's their job to present their opinions and to accuse people. Yeah, nobody talks about Biden's daughter's diary, right? How he showered with her. It's the reason why this is so coordinated, and I feel like Russell's not wrong, is because we have where is it? We have the actual government of the UK who's going after Russell, asking different people or different organizations and platforms like Rumble. Okay, here it is. Rumble slams disturbing requests from UK lawmakers over Russell Brand's content. This is Forbes. A UK select committee is questioning social media companies about whether Russell Brand is able to monetize his content on their site, sparking accusations of overreach. Following the investigation by the Times, Sunday Times, and Channel 4's Dispatches program, Brand has been accused by 4 women of rape, sexual assault, and emotional abuse. Emotional abuse is not rape, but it is abuse. He has since had his content removed from the BBC, the Channel 4. Meanwhile, earlier this week, YouTube took steps to stop Brand's channel from making money off ads, saying he violated the company's creator responsibility policy, which is kind of fucking wild, in my opinion. There was no court of law, right? It was just, allegations. And even if there was compelling evidence that they happened, there was nothing, right? And the most fucked up thing about YouTube is their hypocrisy. The fact that they didn't take his stuff down, right? Like, they're still making money off of Russell Brand. They didn't remove his content. They just demonetized him. So they were like, fuck him, we'll just make all the money ourselves now. Which is fucked up and disgusting in its own right. Hold on. I'm going to tell my guest to Give me a second, because my guest is going to be on here soon, and I want to go a little bit further here. Pop in at... We'll leave that open for a little bit. I hope I should have told her that much earlier. So YouTube has demonetized them, and the most fucked up thing about YouTube is that they're keeping the money for themselves while they allow other creators who have not been questioning of authority, who have not questioned, the efficacies of the vaccine, who have not questioned the mainstream media's narrative. That's what Russell Brand does. Russell Brand, he questions the narrative, and they don't like that shit. It's the same thing that happened with Joe Rogan, right? Like, he questioned the narrative. He said, I don't think that, he's like, I'm not going to get that vaccine. I don't know shit about it. And I was able to get better off of ivermectin and other things, monoclonal antibodies and such. They tried to cancel him. Good thing was that he was on Spotify, and Spotify didn't budge, which is great for them, although they do take down his episodes if they are deemed inappropriate or something. There's something, but there's a lot of missing episodes from the Joe Rogan catalog. But I found this really interesting. This lady wrote this tweet, and I thought it was a really great way of sort of pointing out the hypocrisy of YouTube and the way they make decisions. And so we'll just read this. Interesting developments around Russell Brand content being censored or demonetized on big tech platforms. And this is from Adriana Jacob. It raises questions about fairness and selectivity when it comes to platform moderation. Let's put this in perspective. Mike Tyson, who did do jail time for rape, has a monetized YouTube channel. He was convicted rapist. Jake Paul, accused on YouTube by a woman, is also monetized. Jake Paul has 20 million fucking subscribers. Yet Russell, questioning mainstream narratives, faces censorship over allegations. What are your thoughts? Okay, and so here it's yeah. So she just basically shows, like, he went to prison. She's showing the evidence that Mike Tyson did go to prison for rape. Jake Paul has his own fucking accusations, and he's able to function just fine. The biggest difference is that they're not questioning mainstream narratives. Now, going back to Forbes, let's see. And now Dame Caroline Dinier, chair of Culture, Media, and Sport Committee, has asked broadcasters, including BBC and Channel 4, to clarify the internal investigations they have carried out into Brand's activities during his time working there, and has also spread the net question video platforms TikTok and Rumble. While we recognize that TikTok is not a creator of the content published by Mr. Brand, and his content may be within community guidelines set out by the platform, we are concerned that he may be able to profit from his content on the platform. So they're like, there's no, like, it's beyond any kind of, they're beyond any kind of courtroom. But they demand punitive damages, right? They demand that he does not get money, even though he's never been proven to be a rapist. Again, compelling evidence. And I'm not trying to say that these women are lying. I am saying that there is a coordinated effort here to shut him down, while other people who have been convicted of rape have their channel and are celebrated to this day. They're not questioning the mainstream narrative like Russell Brand is. we would be grateful if you could confirm whether Mr. Brand is able to monetize his TikTok posts, including his videos relating to serious accusations against him, and what the platform is doing to ensure that creators are not able to perform to undermine the welfare of victims of inappropriate and potentially illegal behavior. Huh? Bitch, shut the fuck up. A similar letter was sent to Rumble, which has emphatically rejected the right of committee to ask such a question. I don't know how to say their name. Letter to Rumble points out that Brand used the platform to issue his preemptive video responding to the allegations and asks whether he has been able to make money for his activities. And writes, if so, we would like to know whether Rumble intends to join YouTube in suspending Mr. Brand's ability to earn money on the platform. Rumble describes the letter as extremely disturbing, which it is. We regard it as deeply inappropriate and dangerous that the UK Parliament would attempt to control who is allowed to speak on our platform or to earn a living from doing so. It says in a statement on X, formerly Twitter, singling out an individual and demanding his ban is even more disturbing given the absence of any connection between the allegations and his content on Rumble. It's true, his content on Rumble or YouTube have nothing to do with rape, sex, or any of that shit. It's all questioning mainstream narratives. TikTok won't comment on the appropriateness of the request. However, according to the spokesperson, the different way in which content is monetized on the platform means that Brand was unable to make money from ads on the site. Content is monetized through TikTok Creator Fund, of which Brand has never been a part. So he doesn't even make money on TikTok. He just posts shit on TikTok. It's not clear whether any social media companies have received similar letters, but X did. Twitter did receive a letter as well. Elon Musk said, go fuck yourself. So Rumble stands strong with Russell Brand, and to not stand with Russell Brand would completely fuck their whole platform up, considering that Rumble, they pride themselves on freedom of speech and allowing people to create on the platform the way that they've saying what they want to say. Now, as of lately, so this is just, what is this? This happened not too long ago. What's today's date? Anyways, the 25th. So this was a couple days ago. So now Burger King, ASOS, HelloFresh pull ads from Rumble as Russell Brand vows to keep publishing videos on the platform despite claims of rape and sexual assault, which he did stream today. And he talked about his he talked about the allegations going. He didn't talk about the allegations directly, but he did talk about the concerted effort and coordinated effort of the media coming against them, including UK Parliament. The government hasn't been involved, and then we know that they do this, right? We know that the government's involved in what the media is publishing. We know that the media that they are in lockstep with each other. The mainstream media is the mouthpiece of the government and corporate interests, which is called authoritarianism, and some would say it's fascism. Major brands have started pulling adverts from Rumble, where Russell Brand broadcasts his weekly show. As the comedian vows to keep publishing videos on the platform in spite of claims of rape and sexual assault against him. Now, he denied the claims. And why wouldn't he just keep doing his work? Burger King, ASOS, HelloFresh. He even says he has witnesses, which I would probably think that the witnesses are more on probably character witnesses who are like, Russell would never do that, as opposed to people who are in the room with those women when getting assaulted and being like, hey, he didn't do that, I saw it, you know. Burger King, ASOS, HelloFresh are among the brands to have removed adverts from the platform, where Brand has amassed a following of 1.4 million According to the news movement, he hosts a weekly live. Okay, blah blah blah. According to the news movement, Burger King said it would pause. It had paused advertising with the platform while investigations continue. While ASOS said it had manually removed its ads from Rumble, but some large brands continue to promote brands' content. Amazon Music continue to hold space on their site for brands' podcasts Under the Skin with Russell Brand. Which, yeah, there's no, even if he is convicted, it kind of goes to the idea of R. Kelly, right? R. Kelly has been convicted in 2 courtrooms of sex trafficking, RICO charges, underage sex, all kinds of fucked up shit. Yet his music still makes money for people. They're not taking it down. And you know what? I'm not even against them keeping the music up. And I'm not, even if he's convicted of rape, it doesn't negate the work he was doing, informing people of the hypocrisy of the authoritarian control that the mainstream media and governments have decided that's what it's time to do that. And we need these dissenting voices. We need dissenting voices that speak out against power, because if everybody's just going to line up and do what they're told and to do what they say, I mean, we will end up in an authoritarian fascist system, and that fucking sucks. Who wants to do that? And we're getting there very quickly. So, this whole article here is like, look at these other companies. They're just allowing this rapist who hasn't been convicted in a court of law to make money on their platform. How dare they? And so this is a form of pressure, right? And a form of bullying, trying to get all these other platforms to fall in line, right? To make sure that they set an example of what to do and not to do. And that's wrong. It's wrong. So earlier this week, YouTube stopped Brand from being able to earn money on his channel for violating blah, blah, blah. We know that. Let's see. It is estimated that he earns $27,000 a month from his Rumble channel. Under the terms of his suspension, Brand, whose net worth is has been estimated to be $15 to $40 million. Great estimate. Will still be allowed to post videos on the platform, but will not receive any advertising revenue, which is just robbery. Rumble has rejected calls to impose a similar ban after the platform accused Parliamentary Committee of deeply inappropriate behavior following the letter from the conservative chair of Culture, Media, and Sports Committee to the company's chief executive, Chris Pavlovsky, expressing concern that Brand may be able to profit from the content on their platform. Pounds, not dollars. Well, they're making money. Whatever, Raina. Shut up. I support Brand, and they're probably going to be like, a bunch of right-wing conspiracy theorists are like, I support Brand. And here's the thing. Russell Brand doesn't participate. Well, as far as we know, he doesn't participate in this kind of behavior anymore. He has a child on the way. He's, he seems to be, I support.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Pound town, pound town, pound town.
Hair, whack,
pound town.
Hair.
That's not what I meant to do.
Pound town, pound town.
Come on, man.
Pound town, pound town.
Come on, man.
Pound town, pound town.
Come on, man. I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
That's a good song, bro. Hold on.
Pound town, pound town.
Come on, man.
Pound town, pound town.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
How dare you?
There we go. I'm just a child. Anyways. So now, not only, man, look at that bulge. That dude probably has serious dick. He has serious dick. It is pretty obvious that this is a coordinated effort to take down this dude, and without any kind of court of law, without any kind of due process, and I don't find that particularly okay. So this is what he posted this was Friday, so we broke this on Friday. He released this on stream. It was live on stream last Friday that we played this, but we'll play it again.
Wonders. Obviously, it's been...
So just to sort of
Awakening
wrap it up and sort of to give you an idea of where this is all going. So here is Russell talking his shit.
Wonders. Obviously, it's been an extraordinary and distressing week, and I thank you very much for your support and for questioning the information that you've been presented with. By now, you're probably aware that the British government have asked big tech platforms to censor our online content, and that some online platforms have complied with that request. What you may not know is that this happens in the context of the Online Safety Bill, which is a piece of UK legislation that grants sweeping surveillance and censorship powers, and it's a law that has already been passed.
And just to add there that people are going to jail in the UK for posting stuff on Facebook. They're taking them to jail. They are telling them to stop. Cops are showing up at people's doors for shit. Not to say that they don't show up at people's doors here, but it is rampant now. It is rampant. UK does not have freedom of speech. And that's, I think that's something that gets misconstrued even in the UK to their own citizens, that they do not have freedom of speech, right? The government controls the media there. Like, it's all one. Sort of like here, conspiracy theorists here, saying that America has a government and media, they're all in one bed, right? Anyways, so what he's talking about is something that has had real world repercussions from people just posting shit on Facebook, where people are going to jail and getting arrested and being silenced.
I also don't imagine you've heard of the Trusted News Initiative. Now, as is often the case when a word like trusted is used as part of an acronym to describe an unelected body, trust is the last thing you should be offering. The Trusted News Initiative is a collaboration between big tech and legacy media organisations to target, control, choke and shut down independent media organisations. Like this one. We'll be talking about that on our show on Monday on Rumble. But just to give you an idea of what the TNI is, this is a quote from one of their spokespeople. Because the actual real rivalry now is not between the BBC and CNN globally, it's actually between all trusted news providers and digital platforms. It's clear that these organisations collaborate in constructing narratives, whether that's around the war or the pandemic, and of course there are other examples. And it's very clear to me that we have to be very, very cautious indeed. That's why I'm asking you to follow me on Rumble. Rumble have made a clear commitment to free speech, and Rumble is the primary platform that we will be streaming from. We'll be back this Monday, and as usual, we'll be talking about deep state and corporate collusion, and how ordinary democracy is anathema now, how it's shut down, ignored and avoided. We'll be talking about a military-industrial complex that is able to facilitate and start wars that seem sometimes to be little more than money laundering operations. And
is he talking about Ukraine? Is he alluding to Ukraine? Maybe Afghanistan, Iraq?
With all respect to the hundreds of thousands of victims of the numerous ongoing wars in the world at the moment. We'll be talking about the role of Big Pharma and how Big Pharma have been able to influence government policy around the world and how they've been able to evade due liability and necessary scrutiny, how they've been able to avoid media investigation that perhaps ought be due them.
Come on, man.
And of course, we'll be talking about media corruption and censorship. So please follow me on Rumble, because that's the only way that we can keep our voice. You can go to rb.rumble.com to support me directly and keep me and our channel independent. And I need your support now more than ever, and more than I ever imagined I would. So follow me, support our channel if you can, if it's within your means. But more important than any of that is that you please, if you can, stay free.
You know, and the interesting thing too is another great example of how, you know, the media has sort of taken on this role of judge, jury, and executioner at the behest of governments is Sounds of Freedom sexual misconduct. They went after Tim Ballard, who is the producer. Now they're saying that he has sexual impropriety for Sounds of Freedom, which, if you guys, we were talking about that, how Sound of Freedom, which is about child trafficking, how it was portrayed. How he was portrayed, how he was portraying sex trafficking in, in this country and all over the world, and how it's a $150 billion business, and 18,000 children came out missing out of the border, and how we have a lot going on within this. And he was labeled as a conspiracy theorist, a ultra right-wing QAnon guy. They disparaged him, and it was all in lockstep, right? All these mainstream media think, and now he's sexual impropriety, which I don't know much about. I never read it. I just saw the headline. The Julian Assange, right? They said that he raped some girl, but he fucking released a bunch of information about how America was, I can't remember what he did. It was a lot of stuff about the Iraq War and the Edward Snowden shit. Was he Snowden? I think he was Snowden. How else can elites get their adrenochrome? Exactly. Keep that on supply. So it's an old playbook to discredit people. If you can't silence them or kill them, you discredit them. And to kill people like Russell Brand or Tim Ballard would be an obvious fucking, how are they going to cover that shit up if everybody who dissents against the government narrative is fucking murdered? So you destroy their character. Again, I don't know if Tim Ballard is out there with his sexual impropriety. I don't know if Russell Brand actually did rape people, even though there is compelling evidence, and he's gross for dating a 16-year-old, and he has a dirty dick. But that's not the court of law. Like, we know R. Kelly peed and raped those girls and trafficked, and it took a long time for them to actually come around to prosecute him to the fullest. But fuck R. Kelly. I don't listen to his music anymore, and honestly, with the evidence presented, I'm not really interested in supporting Russell Brand anymore either. So, but I gotta see this shit play out in the courts. That's gonna be the final there. But yeah. Anyway.